Welcome everyone to the first ever BenD and PhilB show where we basically just talk about anything we want. Alright, we're going to start with our favorite show that we both watched together. It premieres October 14th, The Walking Dead Season 3. And PhilB, what are your expectations for Season 3?
I think it's going to be awesome. I bet Rick is going to be 10 times more of a badass, and we're definitely going to see Merle again.
You don't think you're going to miss Shane, though, at all?
Oh, Shane was a good antagonist, but I think it's time to move on. And I think there'll be many more opportunities to introduce new characters as antagonists.
I mean, I'm excited about Meryl, but we saw the one girl with the sword. What's her? Do you know her name?
Do not.
I don't know it either. We'll look that up later. We will be watching it, maybe live, maybe not. It just depends. Now, let me ask you this. What was your favorite show about 4 years ago? Comedy.
Definitely The Office.
And why is that not anymore? I know it's not your favorite show anymore.
Pretty much. I mean, it's gotten convoluted, and once Michael Scott left, it was all downhill from there.
So you would say it was Steve Carell leaving more than anything else?
Definitely.
And you haven't seen a single episode? You refuse to watch. You've boycotted.
I barely watched the Steve Carell leaving episode because if I don't watch it, he doesn't leave.
So, let me ask you this question. Let me put you up to this. Do you think Parks and Rec, which you've just gotten into and you're all caught up, correct?
Yes.
So you'll be watching this Thursday.
Yes.
Do you think this show would survive without one central character as important as Michael Scott?
I believe it would. I think that they have a much broader base. The Office focuses on Michael, Jim, Pam, and Dwight, and all the other characters are ancillary, but I think all the characters in Parks and Rec are much stronger.
Now, which character in Parks and Rec do you think would equate to Michael Scott? Who would you even come close? Now, see, I think it's Ron Swanson, but I can go back and forth on that all day because there's so many strong characters. Because you also have the Amy Poehler character.
I think Amy Poehler leaving would be the equivalent to Steve Carell leaving.
Would you still watch it?
I probably would for Tom Haverford.
See, I would watch it for Ron Swanson, but I think he's the same as Dwight, whereas in small doses, Dwight was good when him and Jim were pulling pranks on each other, but as a main character and as a spin-off, I don't know if I could take that.
As a spin-off, I'm not trusting that as a spin-off. Even though I was Dwight for Halloween a couple years ago, I don't see that making it very far.
I mean, you make the perfect Dwight. I mean...
Yep.
Parks and Rec was actually improved by a main character leaving. I mean, Mark Brandanowitz for about, two seasons, and he left, and I think it arguably got better. It hit its stride in season 3 and 4. I don't know if you agree with that.
I would agree with that. I don't consider him... I don't believe he was a main character. I guess he was, but I don't see him as a make-or-break character.
Yeah, I don't really know the actor's name, but I guess he's kind of more of a movie star now. Not that any of them are, because Rashida Jones definitely is, and Amy Poehler pops up here and there, but I would argue that...
Baby's mama.
Yeah, among other things. But I have to look up his name for reference, but I know he's in The Assassination of Jesse James, and he's in a few other small roles, so I guess he got too big for his britches to be on Parks and Rec with all the characters. Now, I don't know if there's a good segue into this, but I've been to Bonnaroo the past 2 years, which, if anyone doesn't know or hasn't heard me talk about it at length, it's a giant music festival in Tennessee where all the hippies and other kids like that go and gather, and they get a bunch of different diverse bands, and that's really cool. And there's a bunch of other things popping up like that, like Coachella and Lollapalooza, but which I guess has been around for a while. So these things are big on the scene. But PhilB, let me ask you this: if you could have your ideal music festival, what would it be? And before you start, not just the bands, I'm talking the events, different kinds of food, the location, and even sponsors and other things that you would add into it. The platform is yours.
I would definitely say a Wicker Man music festival, like the Nicolas Cage classic called Wicker Man, except I would leave out the male sacrifice at the end. It would be a good collection of people who are hardworking, and I'd say Black Keys would be a good band, Rolling Stones, The Who, I could think of some others. And the platform, big open air, everybody camping out, kind of like how Bonnaroo is.
Now, call me crazy, but I have not seen Wicker Man, so if you could sum that up for me.
Wicker Man, let's see, Wicker Man is a Nicolas Cage flick.
Is it on Netflix?
I don't believe it is.
I don't know if I'll be watching that then.
It's probably a 1 star out of 20, and it involves this island where the whole population is female, but they occasionally need a male to have a baby to procreate.
And would you be this male?
Oh, I would
this
not
would be you.
Because then,
but this is your ideal music festival.
I know, but I would not. But then they sacrifice him in the end. They tie him into the wicker man, and they
this
burn
is your
him.
ideal music festival.
I would not.
You could just not be killed.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're right. I hope I wouldn't be the wicker man, but it's up to the crowd.
Now, you said Black Keys, and what were the other bands? Did you mention any others?
The Who, Rolling Stones, some of the classics.
Now, say you can only pick bands that are alive / still together. Would you take Rolling Stones now, or are you talking Rolling Stones circa 1970s?
That would be, I mean, I'd have to take Rolling Stones now, because 1970s Rolling Stones isn't plausible, but Rolling Stones 1970s rocked.
Now, what about current bands? Who are you digging? Who would you have there right now? I mean, you have Black Keys, and you kind of jump back in time a little bit, but if you could pick any other bands.
Well, Jack White.
Yeah.
What else? The Sleigh Bells. Just naming some indie pop music. Certainly Ray LaMontagne, which is a different genre. Greg Laswell.
Yeah, that's a pretty good mix.
Pretty good mix, I'd say. Britney Spears, because she's making a comeback.
She would be at another 10.
She'd be at another. She'd be a side stage.
I don't think there's too many people smoking weed and rolling on LSD for her.
But she'd bring her Insane Python or Boa with her.
That was more like 2004 Britney Spears. I think when she shaved her head, all that craziness.
She's making a comeback. She's on the X Factor now, right?
No, she is. Yeah. I mean, I haven't watched. Do you watch these shows?
No. I mean, no, I do not.
Tell me it's not a guilty pleasure.
Oh, it's not a guilty pleasure. Because I have more talent than they do.
Maybe we should make it a goal to watch these shows and then discuss so we have more things to talk about other than our critique on pop culture. Now, let me ask you this. Favorite movie of the summer? Because summer, I guess, is just ending. Is it officially fall yet?
It's not officially. September 22nd, I believe.
So we are approaching, within the week, the end of summer. So it's cutoff time. What was your favorite movie this summer?
I definitely think Moonrise Kingdom was my favorite movie of the summer.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Second was Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
And Batman, Avengers, that didn't fall anywhere close to those?
Well, if we were excluding
it's the
Batman...
whole summer.
All right, fine. A whole summer. Dark Knight Rises, #1. Didn't see Avengers. Moonrise Kingdom, Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
Wait, you still haven't seen Avengers yet?
I still haven't seen it.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry. I'll wait for it to come out on Redbox.
Well, it's coming out, I think, this week or next week. So
I've
we'll
seen,
have to discuss on
what's
the next
his name?
one.
Iron Man's... What's his name? Character who plays Iron Man?
Tony Stark?
No.
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. in a lot of ads recently, so I assume it's coming out.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's reasonable to assume. So wait, let's back up a little bit. You said Moonrise Kingdom.
Yes.
Excluding Dark Knight, was your favorite movie of the summer.
Yes.
Can you elaborate at all on why this was your favorite movie? I mean, besides it's Wes Anderson, and that we'll go see anything that he does, but...
It kept me entertained from the beginning to the end. It wasn't... Life Aquatic got a little dry in there, but I think that Moonrise Kingdom kept me entertained from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, that's true. I could say the same. I mean, whereas Life Aquatic and maybe Royal Tenenbaums a little bit, they go flat in some parts, but I could also argue that any parts of those could be better than Moonrise Kingdom as a whole. I don't know if you'll agree with me there, but I think as a whole, it just flowed better.
I agree. I mean, Bill Murray's in it, so it's a winner.
Well, Bill Murray's in every movie of Wes Anderson, so you can't really single that out for being like that, but yeah, I tend to agree with that. And you also said Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Now, I haven't seen this. And is it pretty much just as the trailers show it, whereas it's just Steve Carell and Keira Knightley kind of living out their bucket list before the world ends, or is it a little deeper?
It's a love story with it's more of a love story with a end of the world background rather than an end of the world movie, as some people thought it was.
Now, you said it was dark, though. Wouldn't that kind of go along with the end of the world theme, or is it just dark to be dark?
The world ends. Oh, that was a spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
My bad.
Jeez, put some sound effects for that.
Sorry, so we'll cut that out. But anyway, I think that I don't know. I thought it was a love story with the end of the world as a background, so it wasn't harping too deeply on the dark tune or the dark feelings. It was more of a love story and just seeking somebody for the end of the world.
And is that person Keira Knightley and
Yeah, Steve Carell.
Steve Carell?
Yeah.
Right. Now, as you just said off air that you hate talking about politics and that you can't stand, you're blushing right now and sighing, but you can't stand Facebook updates, you can't stand elections in general. Now, but I know you are political, and I want to ask you this, and I know the answer, and I know what you're going to say, but who are you voting for come November?
Ralph Nader,
Ralph
2012. Green Party,
And by Ralph Nader, you mean Barack Obama.
most likely.
Now, what is your gripe? Is it just the people in general posting things on Facebook? Is it your urge to not to post something and then not to inflame?
I mean,
If that makes any sense.
I've witnessed over the past 4 months, and it's grown with greater fire as we get closer to November. One person posts one thing, and then another person disagrees with them on their wall, and they both walk away with the same opinion they walked in with. There is no real changing of the mind, especially over Facebook. A lot of our political discussion, which typically should be face-to-face, is now through proxies over the internet. And it's a lot of trolling to me. I just don't like it.
Now, do you think that this was any different before the internet? I mean, do you think people were really more undecided before they had the internet? Or is it just a phenomenon that people just choose their candidate? I mean, I tend to agree. I mean, if you saw Mitt Romney's comments, he said that 47% of people already made up their minds. Now, his quote, I took a little bit out of context because he was talking about people who he said were using the government. But I agree that most people, in the fact that already have their minds made up on who they're going to vote for, and it's such a small percentage of people who really are undecided. And I don't know why they waste so much money.
The undecided vote is what wins you the election because they're the most variable. The biggest problem I see, I mean, it's always taken out of context. Fox News is very good at finding things that Obama says and taking them out of context or messing with data, and CNN or MSNBC does the same exact. I mean, context is everything.
That's why I love those Huffington Post headlines. They're just
context.
The
is
Romney
everything.
campaign is over.
Context is everything, and it just. I think the 24/7 access, which started during Iraq War I with CNN, is what really started the whole, constant political debate, and it just drives me crazy because there's no real achievement either way.
I mean, I feel like I should almost get slapped for saying this, but I almost sympathize for Mitt Romney. I mean, now you can't even say anything off the cuff or to the people that you want to talk to without it getting secretly recorded, misquoted, playing over the website. I mean,
exactly.
On one hand, you shouldn't say that, and Obama probably knows better than anyone that now he has to censor himself every time he goes
They
out.
confiscate all cell phones at the Obama rallies.
Yeah, I mean, he isn't even allowed to have his own BlackBerry now. It all goes through something. I think the only thing he really uses is his iPad, and kudos to him because I love my iPad as well.
I love my iPad. But it's too much in your face, and I don't need to live in the political world 24/7.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Okay, well, that was a little more politics than I like talking about, which is any amount of time.
I hate politics.
But just wanted to prod you with that. But now we're going to do a segment that I'm calling Ask PhilB Anything. And if you could surmise, it's where I ask PhilB something and he answers, kind of like the other 15 minutes that you've been listening to his podcast. And my first question is, we touched on this a little bit earlier. Fall starting this week. What is your favorite season out of the 4 seasons?
Spring is definitely my favorite season. May is my definitely favorite month.
Now, is this coming as a botanist, or is this coming just as your perspective in general?
That's when life returns to the earth after the winter. I mean, that's the beginning of summer, and there's so many expectations for summer, and it's just so much we can do, so many activities.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good answer. I would say maybe fall is my favorite season because of football, and you get almost every sport. I mean, you have the hockey lockout now, but if there wasn't, we'd be having preseason hockey right now. we'd be having the Pirates falling right out of the playoff race, which is even fun to say considering that would not be happening a few years ago. We have the Steelers romping on the Jets, and just sports and sports and sports in general, which I will not complain about. So I would say fall, but spring is also good from your standpoint. Now, second question, completely bouncing it off the wall. If you could have a celebrity best friend, who would it be and why?
This is a good one. Who would be my celebrity best friend? I think George Clooney.
That's an interesting answer. I mean, he is a pretty interesting dude. Why would he be your best friend?
Then we could hatch some Ocean's 14 shenanigans and rob millions of dollars from, I don't know, Rivers Casino, or, we could do something Ocean's 14, and I could be number 14.
Now, see, I thought you were going to be serious with your answer because George Clooney in real life seems like a cool dude, too. I mean, the women he dates, the different things he does. He's pretty philanthropic, if you would say that much. And he always picks interesting movies, and he just seems like a cool dude to hang out with. I mean, he's best friends with Brad Pitt, so that's also an in right there.
Ocean's 14 plot unfolding right before your eyes.
Yeah, right there. I mean, he could have that plot in real life, not robbing casinos, maybe just hanging out, like the prelude where he gets the gang together. I mean, let's be honest, that's the best part of those movies anyways, besides the actual heist, is the getting together of the gang. I mean, you have that in Inception, you have that in almost any other heist movie. Okay, my third question for Ask PhilB Anything. You being a botanist, pretty well known, what is your favorite plant/flower? Now, you can give me two different answers, or you can just give me one. I'm not sure if the plant qualifies as a flower, and vice versa. And I think I know the answer to this, but what is your favorite plant or flower?
I go through phases of my favorite things. It's usually 3 months at a time, and then I get super bored with things. But currently, my phase is Agastache funiculum, which is the anise hyssop, and it's great for pollinators and smells like licorice.
Well, you're going to have to be more specific than that.
Tall,
not everyone listening is a botanist.
It's got tall purple flowers. It's a native, and it's great for bumblebees, and the finches love the seeds. And it's a light chartreuse foliage. It's pretty kick-ass.
Now, is this something you would find at a Home Depot or just any store that has plants, or is this something that you kind of have to search for? You buy the seeds, you do it yourself?
It's a more specialty plant. Home Depot and Lowe's probably would not have it, but a more local nursery probably would.
Do you have it?
I do have it. I have a whole garden of natives in my front yard.
I mean, you're all about the bees, am I right?
Oh, all about the bees.
And now, why is this plant so good for the bees? You said it was the pollen?
It produces a lot of nectar. And the fact that it's native also works.
Yep. Well, you can't argue with that.
Do you have a favorite flower?
I don't even know the name. I mean, I would say, what's the one that eats the flies?
Venus flytrap.
Venus flytrap. I like that one. And what's the one where... I like the plants that you can interact with. The one where you touch it and the leaves...
Is it a sensitive plant?
Is that what it's called?
It folds together.
It's got a real name.
Well, I forget what the real name is.
Some kind of botanist, you are.
Yeah, I know. It's in the Fabaceae family, though.
I mean, I grew one of those, and that was really cool. I mean,
Yeah,
that was
sensitive plant.
I mean, it did take a lot of work to grow it. And when I mean a lot of work, I just mean watering it once a day and watching it grow. But I would say that is my favorite plant. And any plant that I can really get to grow could qualify as my favorite plant. I'm going to segue to something else completely random as this podcast goes, and I promise it will be more structured the next few times around. But what is your favorite song at this very moment?
At this very moment, it would be, I'm going to say Hey Ho by Lumineers.
Now, this song's been getting a lot of play for a long time now, and I'm sure you knew about this for a while. How did you find out about the Lumineers?
My buddy Billy loves music, and I found out about the Lumineers back in July.
But was it through a commercial or something?
No, it was.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I saw it in, I think it was a Google Plus commercial, and then you also could see them in Blue Moon and a few other commercials.
I pick up random music. It was on my Head in the Heart Pandora radio station. That's where I heard them the first time.
Now, see, my Pandora is all screwed up because I put in too many bands. I get too smart for my britches, and then it just plays crap. and I can't listen to Pandora. So.
Right. I switch my Pandora stations often, and we'll pick a more specific song. I mean, I've got ones that I created back in freshman year of college, so...
I mean, to be honest, the Kesha radio station was frankly better than the radio station that I have now.
TikTok?
Because it just plays the same songs over and over and over.
TikTok.
Well, my radio station, Kesha could play that song over and over, and wouldn't be too bad on Friday nights after a drink or two. Now, my last question, and frankly I think the most important of any of these questions, and take your time to think about this. Listeners, you can think about this too. You can send in your emails for this. I know there will be plenty. The question is, would you rather be attacked by a horse-sized duck or a bunch of duck-sized horses?
I'd say definitely duck-sized horses.
Well, you came to that conclusion pretty quickly. A duck-sized horses. So we're talking miniature horses the size of ducks.
Can they
all
climb
swarming
trees?
after you.
They cannot climb trees because they're horses.
They're horses. No.
And they're small.
I mean, there's a lot of them, though. Let's say it's a small army. I mean, they could be smart.
So a herd of duck-sized horses. Or would they be a flock?
Well, it'd be a herd because they're horses.
Okay,
it's just
but
the
they're
size
duck-sized.
of a duck.
Yeah,
or
definitely going with that one.
That's interesting.
A duck-sized... Or a duck horse.
I mean, you raise a good point, whereas you could
duck.
climb a tree and easily escape them.
Ducks can fly, horses cannot.
Say you're in an open field, no trees around. It's an even playing field for both. You're still going with the small ones?
Well, if it's an open field, even playing field, I'm eating the the horse-sized duck. Yeah, I'm eating the horse-sized duck.
Well, you would have to slay it first. Are you pretty confident in the fact that you could?
I would slay it.
Now, how would you go about slaying this horse-sized duck?
Katana.
Katana? Explain this weapon.
Katana strike. It would be just a simple Japanese historic sword, I believe, or is katana Japanese?
That would be your weapon of choice?
That would be my
Why
weapon
not
of choice.
just a gun?
It would have to die with more dignity.
More dignity.
Yeah, I mean...
This is a raging...
It's evolved long enough to be a...
horse-sized duck.
Horse-sized duck.
This has nothing to do with evolution. This
fine.
pops out of nowhere. It's like the Matrix. You are simulated into this field.
Okay, fine. I'm either going to eat it or I'm going to tame it and ride it.
Okay.
2 options out of that field.
Now, I lied. I have one more question. I pulled this, let me be frank, I pulled this right from a Chuck Klosterman book, Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs. You should go out and get it. All rights reserved to him. I know it is copyrighted, but I'm going to lift this question from him. I know he would not mind because he's very good at podcasts himself. So the question is, and this is a little long, so stick with me. For whatever the reason, 2 unauthorized movies are made about your life. The first one is an independently released documentary, primarily comprised of interviews with people you know and bootleg footage from your actual life. Critics are describing the documentary as brutally honest and relentlessly fair. Meanwhile, Columbia has produced a big-budget biopic of your life, casting major Hollywood stars as you and all of your acquaintances. Though the movie is based on actual events, screenwriters have taken some liberties with the facts. Critics are split on the artistic merits of this fictionalized account, but audiences love it. Now the question posed to you is, which film would you be more interested in seeing? The documentary or the big budget film that maybe takes some liberties, for better or for worse?
I definitely would say the indie film.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, is this just the indie film lover in you that wants to see it?
No, the indie film lover the indie film would be everybody laughing with me. The Columbia video would clearly be everybody laughing at me. They take those liberties with the goofy parts of my life and make them exceptionally goofy, and the indie film would capture the true essence of my goofy.
I mean, I feel as though we haven't merited enough crazy things in our life to warrant a big movie either way. But if we did, maybe I would want the indie, because that could just... The indie movies seem to turn the mundane into interesting, whereas the big budget films, who knows where they would even go with that. But let me piggyback.
Adam Sandler playing me.
That was going to be my next question, because who do you think they would cast as playing you? You think it would be Adam Sandler? See, because I think it could be, and I'm saying this in all nicety. I don't even know the correct. Respectfully, thank you. that I think Zach Galifianakis with maybe like if he dyed his beard a little bit, maybe him, maybe like a Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Wow, two big goofs right there.
Maybe
yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman would be the indie version, and Zach Galifianakis could be.
That's the key.
Would you say that's fair?
Yeah. The big name versus the small name, I'd say.
Now,
what about you though?
Well,
Indie?
I'm asking you. Well, first of all, I have to agree with you that I would say the indie because they can make my boring 9-to-5 life seem like some big life choice, and who knows? I mean, they could definitely make it better than it is. Whereas the big motion picture, I don't even know where they would find material or what they would add to that. Maybe like a suicide attempt or a car chase or just maybe me slipping on banana peels.
That's what mine would end up being.
Yeah.
3 hours
Sound
of me
effects and
walking
all.
on banana peels.
Now, who do you think would play me? Because I've given you my options for each. You don't have to give me two. You can just throw out one or two.
Well, the real big name would have to be a serious role. Either Nicolas Cage or Brad Pitt would be my two, probably.
Really?
Yeah.
So balding, crazy eyes, Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, but he's a serious actor.
I mean, he's in everything.
When he gets
though.
down
How
to
much,
it, Matchstick Men. End of argument. Matchstick Men.
That was almost a decade ago.
Matchstick Men.
It's
End
probably
of
more
argument.
than that.
And indie film, I don't really know. Give the kid from Moonrise Kingdom a couple years, and I bet he'd be a
The
good...
pudgy Asian kid?
The young kid, the main character.
He's a pudgy Asian child.
I know. It'd be fine. Give him a
I
couple
think
years
I think you're just throwing out things now. You can't recall quick enough.
That's just a full... We've gone full cycle.
Wouldn't mind Edward Norton playing me, just running around yelling at people.
Edward Norton would be a good one for you. Yeah. Since I saw him in the recent Bourne quadrilogy, or the non sequitur Bourne.
You could argue that it's a reboot. I mean, not to delve into that too much, because we can save that for the next podcast. I know you have
I'd say
plenty
so.
of built-up angst about that movie, but...
I saw it twice.
When did you see it again?
I went to a matinee by myself and got a large popcorn and sat there.
Is this before or after we saw it?
After we saw it.
But you swore that you would never see it again.
I probably will on the DVD once it comes to a red box.
Okay, well, we will save that for the next conversation. As of now, I think that wraps things up. I think about 25 minutes is good for a first podcast. So,
yeah.
We will get a guest star next time, hopefully, maybe, and maybe we will clean this up a little bit. But I think it's good for a first podcast.
And thanks, everybody.
Yep, this is BenD and PhilB signing out. Thank you for making it this far and listening.